And back to CD40. We're still going to continue, like I said, paying attention to the candidates who are running. We don't know how we'll end up, but we are bringing you one of those candidates running to unseat Young Kim. He's here with us tonight. Perry Mead will give us a 5-minute introduction.
I'm Perry Mead. It is so great to be here. And I, of course, am running in the 40th district, which, as of right now, includes Laguna Woods and is represented by all of our Congresswoman Young Kim, the Republican that just voted to give the biggest tax break in history to billionaires and big corporations at the expense of over 150,000 people in this district relying on Medicaid, including my older sibling, which is exactly why I got into this world of politics and exactly why I'm running against Young Kim. And this is a absolute pivotal moment in American democracy. It started before Trump. I want to make that clear. It's because, like we talked about and a little bit earlier with the speakers, we have massive wealth inequality in this country. We have people that are never going to be able to buy a home 2 generations in a row that are struggling with student loan debt, credit card debt, are one medical emergency away from losing everything, and are struggling to pay rent and can't even start a family because of childcare expenses. There is a lot of people struggling right now as the wealthiest people in this country have gotten richer and the middle class has continued to evaporate, including what used to be the middle class dream of Orange County. And I've seen that struggle firsthand with my family and so many other families here. And that all has led to this point in American democracy in which people are willing to take a sledgehammer to the system by whatever means necessary. And they're doing that with their savior, Donald Trump. And it's extremely disappointing. It's extremely scary. And what I've seen since Donald Trump first came down those escalators, and I was a high school student, is a Democratic Party that has failed to properly address Trumpism and give something for people to vote for. We've been reliant on anti-Trump alone, and we have not given anything for people to vote for. The amount of people that I know, young people that sat out the last election, working class people that either sat out the last election or were persuaded by Trump's message because they feel like the Democratic Party isn't fighting for them, has led us to this problem now. And I'm very encouraged by the fight that we're seeing from congressional Democrats right now, from Gavin Newsom, because this redistricting effort, I want to be clear, like they said in Apollo 13, failure is not an option. We have to win it. And what does that mean for the 40th district? What does that mean for my campaign? What does it mean for everyone's campaign? I'll tell you this, a lot of people are saying that every candidate should have an exact, clear answer about what they should do right now. And I don't know. The only thing I know is that we have to win redistricting on November 4th. And in the meantime, we have to go out and get all the types of voters that we are going to try to persuade to vote November 2026 to show up and vote November 2025 and give them a reason to vote for something like redistricting, which is not very popular, if we're being honest. It's going to be a hard fight ahead of us for everyone here. We're going to have to go explain to people that, yes, gerrymandering is bad. So come vote for us to gerrymander. It's not going to be an easy sell, but it's what has to be done. And so the only thing that I know is that we have 2 issues right now. It's the Republican Party being a fascist party that we have to fight against. And we have to fight against it by redistricting here in California, mobilizing all of us here, mobilizing Indivisible, mobilizing every person to go win this fight, while at the same time there is internal struggle happening with creating a better Democratic Party at the national level by getting new leaders in Congress that are going to actually take the fight and fight for working people, fight for middle-class families, fight to change things in the same way that we're now just starting to actually fight against the Trump administration. I want the fight to continue when we take the House back. I want to continue when we take the Senate back. I want to continue when we take the White House back. And what that fight looks like is, hell, we should override the parliamentarian to increase the minimum wage, which hasn't changed under 2 consecutive Democratic Party presidents. We should make sure that we create a universal healthcare system so that no family has to worry about if Medicaid cuts from Republicans will affect their healthcare if they're so lucky to even have healthcare right now. We have to have the fight to win right now against the Trump regime, but also to build a better Democratic Party in Congress. And that is something that I deeply believe. It's something that I believe everyone here deeply believes too. That's why you're all here on a Tuesday night at Laguna Woods Democratic Club, because you care. And we can't lose that care right now. We have to dig in. Every single day between now and November 4th, I'm going to spend my campaign making sure we win redistricting. And what we do after that is hopefully we have the new maps, and then we go take the fight to Young Kim anyways. But in the meantime, we must win redistricting. So I was hoping to come here and give my whole spiel about all the exact policy things we're going to do and all my background, but I'm upset because we are in the fight for our lives. I'm scared for our democracy, and I'm going to spend every single day and every single waking moment, every resource in my campaign to make sure we win redistricting November 4th, and I hope we'll all do the same. So I'm Perry Mead. I'm running for Congress with an asterisk in the 40th Congressional District, and let's go win on November 4th, then let's go flip Congress, and then let's go create a more affordable future for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Perry. And we'll see you next month with the rest of the gang, right? Yes, absolutely. Okay. Our guest speaker tonight, I don't know, she's a bundle of energy, intelligence, creativity, determination. I don't know how else to describe her. Amy has organized the Indivisible CD40 Coalition, which hosts a rally every Sunday from 2 to 4 in Irvine, bringing speakers and information on so many social and political issues. She works with and supports Orange County clubs and activist groups from the South County to the North, helping get the word out on what's important. I have to say personally, it's been an incredible opportunity to learn and meet people. And I never leave there without saying, I love this family. So please welcome our guest, Amy Stevens.
Thanks for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. I don't know all of you, but I would love to. So if you have time after, come up and say hi. I'd love to meet you. And I'm gonna go through my slides. I added in a little bit of content today about what's been happening as well. And I promise I did not collude with Perry before this, but you're gonna hear some similar content from me as well. Okay, so next slide, please. So first I just want to talk a little bit about Indivisible. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with it. It's a national organization, and there are independent chapters throughout the country. I want to say we're over 1,500 now. But we're brought together by a practical guide to resist the Trump agenda. It started in 2016 after Trump was elected the first time. Indivisible is a nonpartisan movement of thousands of group leaders and more than 1 million members taking regular, iterative, and increasingly complex actions to resist the GOP's agenda, elect local champions, and fight for progressive policies. And as Mary said, I'm one of the leaders of Indivisible California 40. Indivisible got started with people who had been former congressional staffers. So they were looking at the fact that the Republicans had the House when Trump was elected, and that one of the best ways to fight back against Trump's agenda was to retake the House in 2018. So the original Indivisible groups were organized around congressional districts with that in mind. And Orange County got on board really quickly with Indivisible. So many of the groups that you'll see in Orange County are organized around congressional district as well, although that's not necessarily the only model, and we have other groups in Orange County organized in different ways. But our group is organized around the 40th Congressional District, which you all know is Young Kim's district. And so I help lead that group, and we also have a coalition of Indivisible groups throughout Orange County, and I kind of spearhead that coalition with all the Indivisibles so that we cooperate countywide. Okay, you can move on to the next slide. So these are the 5 principles of Indivisible. First, remake our democracy. We recognize that our democracy was rigged from the start in favor of the white and wealthy. We actively work to realize a shared vision of a real democracy of, by, and for the people and all people. We embrace progressive values. We model inclusion, respect, and fairness in all of our actions. We coordinate and collaborate. We partner with other indivisible groups, like I was just mentioning, on advocacy, elections, and national indivisible campaigns. Oh, by the way, I'm going to send this presentation to Mary after, so if anybody wants the slides afterward, they'll be available for you. Next slide, please. We build a strong and strategic movement. We focus our efforts to maximize our impact, winning progressive policy victories and taking power at the local, state, and federal level. And finally, nonviolent actions and events. All indivisible events and actions are nonviolent. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is Indivisible California 40? We're a nonpartisan, all-volunteer, grassroots group of residents in the 40th Congressional District who are fighting fascism and holding elected officials accountable, from city councils and school boards all the way up to Congress. We partner with other community organizations, like this one, to uplift and support our neighbors while we work toward electoral change in 2026 and November of this year, too. Next slide. So here's what we do for our local indivisible group. We amplify California 40th voices and empower each of us to take action in alignment with our values. We're a visible presence in the community via weekly rallies, community service, and social media. We build community through neighborhood and community meetings, regular events, and volunteer opportunities. We forge relationships and collaborate with other groups to support their actions, events, and aligned values. Next slide. We support impacted communities through mutual aid and our 1 Million Red Cards project, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But as you know, many of our local communities, not just our immigrant communities, our LGBTQ friends, all kinds of people are being dramatically and terribly impacted by this fascist regime we're living in, and it's really important for us to support those communities at this time. We encourage conversations with people we meet around shared values, not necessarily policy or partisanship, but around our shared values. And we train people in storytelling. How do we connect with those people? Ask your friends and neighbors about their economic stressors. Ask them what worries you, and then listen without judgment. And that is one of the best things you guys can be doing right now, is asking your friends and neighbors questions, especially the ones that are not engaged, and then listen to what they have to say and commiserate with them. And we also compile data on what California 40 residents care about and what affects them via deep canvassing efforts by phone and in person. We just finished a pilot program by phone. A couple of you guys participated in that. Thank you very much. And it was a different kind of phone bank where we, instead of having a policy or a candidate that we were pushing, we were there to ask how people were feeling. It was right after the budget passed. And so our leading question was just, hey, do you know anything about this budget? And what do you think about that? And then we collected that data. We learned quite a bit from that, actually. And we'll be continuing that kind of canvassing as door knocking has become a little more challenging. So, and I was quite surprised, actually, by how many people answered their phone and were excited to talk to us. How many people said, I'm at work right now. Can you call me back later? Because I really want to discuss this with you. It was crazy. Because I would never answer my phone if some random stranger called me. But lots of people did, and they had a lot to say. Next slide, please. We train people and teams for strategic non-cooperation to fight fascism. We'll talk about that a little bit later, too. Educate people around federal, state, and local politics, current events, and values that affect California 40 residents. And we connect politics to their everyday lives. A lot of people think, they say, like, oh, I'm not political. I don't like politics. I don't want to talk about politics, right? And they don't realize, like, that life is politics. Everything that happens to you is political, especially right now. And how important it is for them to understand that. So, using the word politics may not be the right approach, but we can talk about what they care about, what are their values, and how they can do things to have the world around them be shaped by their values. We help existing and potential voters engage in elections, and we inspire radical inclusivity, a growth mindset, and a willingness to be held accountable by the group. Next slide, please. I just want to admit, it's not easy to do these things. There are barriers to our success. The main one, I think, is apathy. The lack of difference between the candidates that some people feel there is. They're like, oh, the Democrat and the Republican, they're the same, right? They say politicians, and there's not a big difference between politicians. They're all the same. Or the political parties, they're all doing the same stuff. They're all taking corporate dollars. They're all corrupt, right? People have an unclear idea of the nature of the electoral process. It's confusing how elections work, honestly, especially the presidential election. They have confusion and disconnect with the political system in general, like how do they get things done? And they have a perceived caliber of candidates, politicians, that they think they're not very good, right? So they just don't think it matters. Some people are discouraged. They feel that their vote was irrelevant, or like, I'm the only Democrat or liberal or progressive in my area. When my family moved here in 1979, we were the only Democrats on our street, right? Like when I went to school, the kids in my school, like they didn't understand who these people were. Like they just all were on board because their parents were for conservative values, There's tons of misinformation right now, right? There's internet bots, the rise of alt-right news sources, and stuff just spreads like wildfire on social media. People don't fact check before they repost. People believe what they see. And finally, people are overwhelmed, right? And this is by design. Project 2025 promised shock and awe and to flood the zone. And they have every day. There are so many new and awful things happening. Which takes us to the next slide. Project 2025. So I just want to give a little overview of the project. I think probably many of you are already familiar with it, at least at some level. But it's a political initiative that was published actually all the way back in April of 2023 by the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank, with the support of over 100 far-right organizations to reshape the federal government of the United States and consolidate executive power in favor of right-wing and Christian nationalist policies. Project 2025's policy guidebook, which was called The Mandate for Leadership, describes an America poisoned by wokeness and overtaken by lawlessness and chaos, where conservatives need to seize power immediately and for as long as possible to right the sinking ship. Next slide. It provides instructions on how to dismantle the government, recruit thousands of politically aligned people to staff the Trump administration, and quickly guide the next president, with Trump, they didn't know it would be him at the time, into the steps needed to accomplish their preferred policy changes, all through the executive branch alone. The project guts checks and balances. And we've seen this play out as courts become politicized, Trump rules by executive order, and Congress just rubber stamps his policies. If you want more information, and this will again be if Mary sends it out, you can just Google Project 2025 Overview. There's lots of great resources, including from democracyforward.org. That's a really great organization if you're not familiar with it. And they have a whole guide on there all about Project 2025. Next slide, please. So here we are, and here's the progress that they have made. They told us what they plan to do in 900 pages, right? This was public information. You could read it before the election. And they have been doing it. According to the Project 2025 tracker, which you can find at project2025.observer, as of today, August 19th, 2025, they are 47% complete on their goals. The recently passed federal budget is one tool by which they are implementing their goals. It allows them to shape policy indirectly via how money is allocated and spent. So this was a way, obviously Congress did vote on the budget, but between Trump's executive orders and some things that are buried in this budget reconciliation bill, they're able to do things in the bill that would normally take 60 votes through a process that they just needed 51 because of budget reconciliation. So they've kind of squirreled around and done crazy things with the budget. Plenty of information online for you about all the awful things the budget does. I'm sure many of you are highly aware of it already. So today we are 211 days, or 7 months tomorrow, into Trump's second term. Only 7 months out of 4 years. He has 1,249 days, or 41 months to go. Yeah. That is a long time, folks. So we need to be working really hard and soon. Next slide, please. Okay, so fascism in America. So because it's an imprecise and emotionally charged term, some people prefer to just say authoritarianism instead of fascism. Take your pick, I don't care. But we are living in a fascist regime. Fascism uses sophisticated propaganda techniques for an anti-liberal, anti-socialist, violently exclusionary, expansionist national agenda. Regimes use fear and chaos to keep people off balance. Does that sound familiar? And just as I'm going through these, think about what's happening right now. Fascist groups believe they are victims. Like, make America great again, right? We heard from a white nationalist that the reason he's a white nationalist is because there are no spaces for white people in America, right? Crazy stuff. Okay. It creates an enhanced sense of identity and belonging and close integration of the community where unity and purity are forged by common conviction. You're in the in crowd if you're part of it, right? And it attracts people who feel excluded. Next slide. So how do we know we're living in a fascist state? Again, think about what's happening. Fascist states are characterized by the primacy of the nation and a lockstep adherence to its principles and mission. A charismatic leader demanding unquestioning loyalty and obedience. Dictatorial, authoritarian power, rejection of democracy and individualistic liberal rights and freedoms, militarism, aggressive foreign policy, and expansionism. And just think about, for instance, of course, Trump sent the military here. I don't know how many of you are following what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, but he's militarized the city. He's taken over the police department. Yeah, and he's talking about just things very much like that. Like, he said things like, maybe we'll just take over Gaza, right? We'll just make it American and we'll solve this problem. Next slide, please. More characteristics of fascism: dehumanization of enemies, an us versus them mentality, demonizing scapegoated groups and justifying violence against them. Think about what's happening in our immigrant communities, right? They're criminals. They're rapists. They're the worst. They're sending their worst, right? We've heard him say that. What the reality is, the majority of people who are being kidnapped by ICE don't have a criminal record at all. They pay their taxes. They work in the community. They have families. The man in Tustin had 3 sons in the Marines serving the country that kidnapped him. LGBTQ folks, like, they're demonizing trans people right now, right? Saying that they're groomers, sexual predators, right? I don't know how many of you, I hope everyone here has at least one trans friend. I have many. They have all the same desires and dreams and hopes as the rest of us. They're just as human as anybody else, right? But fascism wants to demonize them and justifies violence against them. Fascism also uses forcible suppression of opposition. Think about, maybe you guys have heard of Mondami in New York. Ran as a Democrat and also as a member of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. And Trump, after that, came out and was saying he was going to deport him, right? And all these things to try and like oppress the opposition. This is a guy running for mayor, you know? They use propaganda and disinformation and economic control. Think about the budget. Next slide. So here are the pillars of fascism. The government, the regime has to be held up by these pillars of society. They include civil service, the police and the military, media, faith communities, labor, and business. And those are the things that prop up a fascist regime. Next slide. Gene Sharp was a political scientist. He worked in progressive movements, worked against fascism. And he said, by themselves, rulers cannot collect taxes, enforce repressive laws and regulations, keep trains running on time, prepare national budgets, direct traffic, manage ports, print money, repair roads, keep markets supplied with food, make steel, build rockets, train the police and army, issue postage stamps, or even milk a cow. People provide these services to the ruler through a variety of organizations and institutions, which we saw on that last slide. If people would stop providing these skills, the ruler could not rule. Next slide. So this takes us into strategic non-cooperation. This is how do we fight fascism? Non-cooperation is the act of refusing to cooperate or comply with requests, demands, or orders. If you belong to one of those pillars, can you go back 2 slides so they can see them again? If you belong to one of these pillars, think about the ways you could just refuse bad orders, gum up the works, slow things down. Enough non-cooperation will cause a pillar to completely defect or at least be unreliable in the autocrat's aims. So, all of you, everyone in this room, has power to make real change. Their goal is to make you forget that, to make you feel like that is not true, to overwhelm you so much that you think there is nothing you can do to fight back. But you have the power to make real change in small and large ways. Think about, again, what pillars you interact with and how you can refuse to cooperate. Do not comply in advance. This is like the number one thing you can do. Do not assume it's bad and you're just going to roll over and take it. Don't do the things you know the regime wants you to do without them forcing you to do it. Do not comply in advance. Take up space. Be visible. Let people know that you're there and that you matter. The next one is super hard for me. Prioritize joy. Don't let them take away your joy. It's been very hard to feel joy for me recently. But we have to. Listen to music, get together with friends, dance. We had Rage Against the Regime a couple weeks ago. We had punk rock music, and we all went out and headbanged in the middle of the lawn to it at the rally in Irvine. It was great. You may have seen when ICE was first starting to crack down, and the communities in Santa Ana were fighting back and rallying and marching and staying out late in the streets and getting shot with rubber bullets and tear gas. And they were dancing. Huge dances in the streets and singing. We need to do that. We need to let that be a model for us. So prioritize joy and practice solidarity. Solidarity is standing with your community members, standing with your neighbors, standing with people who maybe aren't exactly like you, but standing in strength and saying, we can do this together. Next slide, please. So, we've talked about this already, but one of the ways you can stand in solidarity is through the redistricting battle. I know we talked about it, so I'm just going to go through this part quickly. Texas has answered Trump's call to find more Republican votes for 2026. Democrats are fighting back, especially in California. Newsom's plan puts redistricting on the ballot in November. That is in our legislature this week. Looks very likely to pass. Republicans are suing to stop it. So there probably will be a legal battle around it. If it succeeds, a new congressional district map will be put in place for the 2026 elections only if Texas redraws their maps. So if you vote yes in November, what you're saying is, if Texas redraws their maps, then we will. If they don't, nothing happens. We can vote yes on this, and then Texas can say, oh, never mind, and we'll be like, fine, we won't do anything. By the way, Texas once again has a quorum. Democrats returned yesterday, and they're going to vote tomorrow. And if we pass this redistricting bill, it will be temporary. We'll go back to our independent commission after the 2030 census, just like we do after every census. Next slide. Okay, I did put some QR codes. They might be from the back of the room a little hard, but I have all of these codes here on clipboards too for after, so feel free to come see me if you want any of this information. So here's a new map and the support we have so far for the plan. You can go to this website. They have an interactive map. You can put in any address. It'll show you exactly what new district that address will fall into if the redistricting happens. And you can look for your favorite area and see where they're going to be. Laguna Woods will be in California 47, all of you. So if he's reelected, Dave Min will be your representative. Certainly better than Young Kim. Yeah. And by the way, I just want to explain something about this too, because let's say the redistricting happens. Right now we're in a little bit of a limbo, right? We're not really sure what's going to happen. Even if the measure passes, if Texas hasn't voted yet, we don't know what's going to happen. So we don't know where we're going to be for the primary next June, right? And Perry mentioned this because poor Perry is really up in the air right now. So technically Indivisible is not currently endorsing any candidates, but I will just say as myself, Amy, that you should definitely pay attention to Perry. Okay. So we're still going to have the 40th district. So even if it gets redistricted, we're going to be voting in June in the primary for the new district while we're still being governed according to the old district, right? So we'll still be stuck with Young Kim until January of 2027, no matter what happens. So we're still stuck with Trump too. So even throughout this process, there's still a lot we need to do, a lot we need to fight for. Indivisible nationally is supporting the redistricting. Weeks before Newsom came out with his plan, when Texas first started talking about this, the Indivisible national team said, we need to get behind this, right? We need to fight fire with fire. We need to demand redistricting. In Orange County, all of our Indivisibles signed on to the petition to ask our state to redistrict in response to Texas. I'm part of a coalition all across California of Indivisible groups. They've all signed on to. So we are very much supporting the redistricting. But we still need to fight hard against fascism for our neighbors and for Congress. So you guys are going to have to be doing 2 things at once, 3 things at once while this is happening. Because the new budget for ICE kicks in on October 1st. So we're going to be dealing with more money for ICE. They're going to kick back up their activity while we're also trying to convince people to vote for the redistricting. It's a lot. Next slide, please. Okay, so what I want to talk about is the things that you can be personally doing. And I want you to be focused. I mean, in addition to redistricting, put that aside for a second, I want you to engage locally. So traditionally, there's a lot of focus on congressional seats, on who we're gonna vote for Congress. For months, people have been asking me who to vote for next year for Congress. It's on my badge, it's on our banner, Unseat Young Kim, right? That's our rally cry. But the reality is, when we focus only on Congress, there's this theory, and I think the Democratic Party has done this a lot of, and I understand why, of focusing on Congress and then hoping it trickles down to the down ballot votes, right? And I get it. It's expensive to run campaigns. It's expensive to do mailers. It's easy to hit a large group of people that way. But it doesn't trickle down because the races below that, most of them don't have a D next to people's name. People who want to vote Democrat maybe don't know who to vote for, right? They are nonpartisan races. And a huge portion of your tax dollars are controlled by local politicians. City councils, school boards, water districts, county board of supervisors, tons of the money gets controlled locally. Those things are so important. We need to be paying attention to those things. So our theory of change is that the best way to make an impact is to focus on local engagement and then local elections. Build community in each neighborhood and each city. We will need each other more than ever as this budget kicks in fully, ICE ramps up even more, and Trump continues to try and dismantle our democracy. Get folks engaged in what happens in your area. Learn about what your locally elected officials actually do and how much of your tax dollars they control. Find out who are the electeds you should support and who you should replace. And then vote up the ballot from there. Build trust via community networks now, and people will listen to you when it's time to vote. So if you're building those community groups, you're working in mutual aid, you're doing things locally, you're going to city council meetings, you're going to school board meetings, you're going to water district board meetings, which I bet none of you have ever been to. Has anybody ever been to a water board meeting? Like one person, two people. Nice job. Water is one of our most important resources. There's a huge amount of money there. There's a huge amount of politics there. You guys need to engage with these things, okay? So mutual aid, city councils, school boards, and water districts. That's where I want you to be focusing the majority of your attention. Next slide, please. All right, so here are some action steps that you can take to engage locally and make real change. By the way, speaking of making change, another reason to engage locally is you can make a huge difference in a local election. Some of these local elections are won by 100 votes, although some of our congressional races are too. Derek Tran only won by about 650. So think about that. If everyone in this room convinced one more person to vote for the better city council candidate, you could win. And there's so much power again in that. The way we got here historically, we've been on the road to fascism since the Reagan administration. Okay, CPAC or those groups were, ALEC, they were plotting this even beyond their own lifetimes. Some of those old white men knew they were going to die before it came to fruition, and they did it anyway to their own grandchildren, right? And so this has been going on for a long time, but you might remember the Tea Party movement. Anybody heard of the Tea Party movement? Do you remember that? Yeah, that was like the precursor to MAGA. And the way the Tea Party movement took over, they were strategic, and it was based on local elections. They first took over city councils and school boards. They built a base of elected officials, and then they moved them up through the ranks, and those people are now in Congress. So that's why I want you to focus locally, okay? So action steps. First of all, our 1 Million Red Cards project. Who knows what a red card is? Oh, fantastic. Nice. So a red card is a know your rights card. Will you grab one? Other box. Oh, no, there's one in there. Looks like this. I saw one on a table over here when I was walking by earlier. And it's just a business-sized card. And we have a different version than you'll find on the national website for this. It's from the ILRC Immigrant Legal Resource Center, I think? Rights Center. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So they pioneered the red card. The reason they're red, I learned recently, is it's like in a soccer match when they hold up the red card to stop, right? So that's the idea. And on one side it has, the one side of ours has the Know Your Rights information. It's all the constitutional rights that everyone on American soil has, no matter their immigration status. Things like, do not open the door. Ask to see a warrant signed by a judge. You have the right to remain silent. Do not answer any questions. Ask the agent if you're free to leave. Do not sign any documents. Ask for a lawyer. So these are important rights for people to know, especially people who might be targeted by ICE. The cards we have are printed in English and Spanish. We did Spanish printing because, first of all, ICE is targeting Spanish speakers or people who look like they might be Spanish speakers or look like they may be Hispanic immigrants or Latinos. Also, Spanish is the second most populous language in our county. There are 1.08 million self-identified Hispanic people living in our county. That's like over a third of the county is Hispanic. And there's 950,000 immigrants in Orange County, and of those, I forgot to look up the number, but I think it's around 750,000 are Latino. So they are by far the group that is being most targeted and in most need of this information, so that's why we've spent the money to print them in Spanish. And the other side has information from the Orange County Rapid Response Network. They have ICE watchers that work in the community. When there's an ICE raid, they go out and let the community know so that they can protect themselves. They help families of those who are kidnapped with food and essentials and participatory legal defense. So it's got that information on the other side. So that's a red card. And I got this bee in my bonnet that I wanted all 950,000 immigrants in Orange County to have a red card in their own language. And so we started this project. So far, well, let's see, after this week, we will have printed about 520,000 of the million that we're shooting for. So far, we've distributed over 435,000 of them. Yeah, it's going really well, thanks to people like you. Thanks to donors just like you. It's like a PBS ad, although poor PBS. Anyway, the QR code up there, and I have it on the clipboards. You can donate. We take small donations. We also try to get groups to sponsor batches of red cards. So if you belong to a community organization, like maybe Laguna Woods Democrats, and you want to try and convince them to sponsor a batch, I can talk about that as well. And the money goes 100% to the printing of the red cards. We don't keep any of it. It's not a fundraiser or anything like that. So that's what that's about. I also have information if you're interested in distributing red cards. It is not transactional. You don't have to pay for the cards you're going to distribute, right? Like we want people with money to pay for them, people with time to distribute them. And sometimes there's an overlap and sometimes there's not. And if you need more information about how to do the distribution or about how to canvass businesses so they can protect their employees from raids, come see me. I have a QR code for that too. Okay, next thing. Attend a weekly rally. The purpose of a rally is not to change a politician's mind, okay? Yes, we know Trump does not care about our weekly rallies, right? Although they do take notice when we have big days like No Kings, for instance. But the purpose of the rally is to be a visible force in the community, show others they're not alone. When you're at a rally, introduce yourself to the organizer and other attendees, make friends. Bring someone who's never been to a protest before. This is a good way to help people engage in the movement, engage in the work. And you can bring a sign if you have one, but most rallies provide signs for those without, so you don't have to worry about that. This QR code goes to the Indivisible California 40 link tree, and we have a rally every day of the week mostly in the 40th district. Mondays is in Brea, just slightly outside the district. Sundays is in Irvine. But that's our big weekly rally where, like Mary was saying, we have speakers and music and all kinds of good stuff. All right, next thing. I need your help. Everybody in here, seriously, every single one of you can help with this, to grow the movement. So the numbers on the board is, as of today, the current registration of voters in Orange County. I forget what the total was, like 1.6 million or something like that. So obviously not everyone eligible to vote has registered to vote. You can see Democrats slightly outnumber Republicans, but don't get too excited because the Libertarians tend to vote Republican, American Independents. If they registered intentionally and didn't just think that meant NPP, no party preference, also tend to vote conservatively. Peace and Freedom, Green, and other, right? So we have just over 9 months to the primary. Let's assume right now that we have about 4,000 really engaged people in OC. I'm hoping that's an underestimate, okay? But when I look at my mailing list, how many Democratic clubs we have, how many people in those clubs actually really participate, those kinds of things, the other community organizations out there, I'm just gonna say, like, let's say 4,000. If each of us in that group of 4,000 highly engaged people activates one new person each month, really gets them activated, gets them engaged, and then they do one person each month after that, and so on, right? Exponential growth. If you learn anything about finance, this is how you grow your money, right? That's 2 million people activated in Orange County by the election. That's enough to overwhelm anything the Republicans try to do in our county. So just one person a month. Now that doesn't mean you only talk to one person. You're probably gonna have to talk to 10 or 15 to get one engaged person, right? But this is important. You need to help us grow the movement. So how do you activate those people? Through listening and friendship. Next slide. Find out what their values are. Connect where values are shared. Do not argue. You will not win any hearts and minds by arguing with people. Do not talk policy. That's not what the point is. We're talking about shared values. What is it we really care about? If you start out with a policy position, a lot of people are going to disagree with you out of the gate. But if you start talking about what you care about, I care about the safety of my children. I care about being able to pay my bills every month, right? MAGAs care about those things. We care about those things. There are a lot of places where we can agree on shared values and then work from there. Do not try to convince people. Be a good listener. We need to be big tent, which means aligning with people to fight fascism, even when we don't agree 100%. Purity tests are not going to get us there, folks. And we need to welcome disaffected non-voters, NPPs, and Republicans without accusations or judgment. Don't ask if they're happy with, with their vote, for instance. We're going to welcome them in. If they realize it was a mistake, that's just fine. Invite them, people to events and rallies. Join me at this event with like-minded people. We're not the only ones who think this way. Next slide. Start a neighborhood group. Invite people who are also concerned about what's happening. And do not ask about partisanship. Focus on friendship and solidarity and move slowly toward action. Don't just complain. Discuss your vision for a better democracy and how to get there. If you're in the club, I'm pretty sure you guys have access to DPI. You can use that access to identify potentially like-minded folks, registered Democrats and NPPs who likely lean left. You can go online and check out 1 Million Rising from Indivisible for ideas for how to run meetings in your neighborhood. And again, point to local politics. City council decisions, school boards, and how Congress votes affect us at the local level. Get folks interested there first. Okay, next slide, please. This is my last topic. A vision for our future. There needs to be a goal. Perry mentioned this too. We cannot just be against fascism. We can't just be anti-Trump. We can't just hate what's happening. We need to be for something. This gives us hope and shapes our decision making. We have something to hold a decision up to decide if it's a good one when we know where we're trying to go. First of all, we do not have to compromise our values to win. We should push elected public servants, regardless of their party affiliation, that means Democrats too, for policies that benefit their constituents. Don't just accept good enough. Remember, they work for us, not the other way around. We should demand our electives not give in to corporate interests. Next slide. Our resources are not scarce. They are hoarded by billionaires and oligarchs. There is enough for each person to thrive. A true living wage is not just subsistence level. It is abundant enough to have a full, rich life. Housing, food, water, not on here, but clean air, healthcare, education, and equal protection are human rights that should be part of any thriving society. And finally, we deserve a democracy that works for all people. Until we are all free, none are free, and we will keep fighting for our freedom. Thank you.
Are there other states that are redistricting or planning to redistrict?
You know, honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I know there are other states that Trump has asked to consider being in play, and I know there's other Democratic blue states that could respond if that's necessary. Florice or Perry, do you know, are there any other states actively planning on redistricting right now, besides California and Texas? Indiana. Ohio. I heard Missouri. Yeah. And then New York, Kathy I never know how to say her last name. Hochul, thank you. Kathy Hochul has said, like, we'll fight back, right? What's that? Colorado's trying to fight back. Yeah, and to be honest, you know, I did look into, because my thought was, okay, this is like a nuclear arms race, right? So Texas does 5, we do 5, then someone else does something else, someone else does something else. And so I did try to see, like, I'm sure someone else has thought of this already, right? Like, what if everyone redistricted in a way that was partisan to the government of their own state? And it looks like if that happened, we would be exactly where we are right now, which is why this is so frickin' stupid. Okay, keep going.
Okay, all right. Okay, this question I'll answer. Why does California have to have an election if Texas does not? The idea is if Texas decides not to, we won't either.
I know the answer, or you can answer.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so in Texas, the legislature sets the boundaries when the census happens. So every 10 years, there's a census in the United States. They count all the people. The House of Representatives is the votes and number of representatives you have is allocated by population. For instance, we lost a representative after the last census in 2020 because our state's population was growing more slowly than other states' populations. Also, there's migration within the state, so that's why redistricting happens. So in Texas, the legislature does it. In California, we voted a while ago to have an independent, nonpartisan redistricting commission so that it would be fair, so people wouldn't gerrymander, so people wouldn't get disenfranchised because we're a democratic state. And this is actually a bill that's been in the House a couple of times to force all states to have independent redistricting commissions. In fact, Young Kim's very first vote in Congress in 2021, January in 2021, H.R. 1 was the bill to make every state have to have these independent commissions for redistricting. She voted against it. That was her very first vote in Congress. Yeah, so that's a fun fact. Anyways, so that's why we have to have a vote, because we have this, and I think we put it in our Constitution about this independent redistricting, and so we can't just like redraw the lines. That's not how it works here, because we're fair people. So that's why we're voting and they're not.
Right. Okay, how about repealing Citizens United?
Yes, that is a critical thing to do. Repeal Citizens United. You know, that's not going to happen until we have control of Congress. And even then, I'm going to be honest with you guys, it benefits some Democrats too. Okay, there are many Democratic candidates that take money, dark money, so-called dark money, corporate money, PACs, super PAC donations, that sort of thing. So, I think that one's a tricky one. I know that Perry, for instance, does not take that kind of money and is very much in favor of no one taking that kind of money, as many of us are. Yeah, and so we need, Katie Porter also does not take dark money or corporate money. Yeah, so we need to push, again, like I said, even our Democratic representatives to do better. And yeah, that's going to be a hard one, but it's necessary, absolutely necessary.
Got it. Okay, let's see. We heard that by firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Trump wants to claim zero inflation, which would mean no Social Security COLA, which would...
That's cost of living increase, the COLA.
issue for seniors, which
Yeah, it is an issue for you guys, because your Social Security money, the determination for how much your Social Security goes up every year is based on the inflation rate in the country. If we do not have an independent Bureau of Statistics, if we do not have mathematicians and statisticians and people working with data who are honest, Trump wants to deny inflation, right? Like this week he went on and talked about how great inflation was. Like the day the inflation numbers came out, the consumer price index came out, prices have gone up, right? The jobs numbers came out, the jobs outlook is bad. And he's saying these things, so yes, that is a big danger to anyone on Social Security, for sure.
Amy, what do you think about working to get the young people to vote?
Okay, so I know a lot of people who are not so young complain about like the apathy or like these young people, where are they? Why aren't they involved? Blah, blah, blah. We have two of them here, right? And as a mother of a Gen Z person, I will say, like, I don't know how engaged I would be if I were that age right now with the way things are. They are working multiple jobs. They are trying to finish their education. They are saddled with crazy student loan debt. They have no hope of ever owning a home. Many of them don't have a hope of moving out of their parents' home. Sorry, guys. And they're looking at what's happening. And again, it goes back to that thing we said where, like, they don't see a big difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Democrats that take corporate money and vote in their own interests, right? They don't see that when they voted, it made a difference. They don't, or when their parents voted, that it made a difference. So we need to be helping them, educating them, and we need to just be helping them. We have the power to put programs in place that will help people in that generation do more than just barely scrape by and survive, giving them enough time to be engaged. You know, civic engagement is not a cheap activity. It takes time, it takes education, it takes money, right? It's not an easy thing to do, so demanding these students, like, asking them and being mean to them, and honestly, being snotty about it is not going to make them come out and vote, right? So the attitude we have needs to be one of trying to come alongside, trying to help them, giving them those opportunities, modeling it for them. A lot of parents don't vote either.